And welcome to Semifinals week. If you're joining us now, that means you're probably there. So congratulations on making it this far in what's probably been the craziest fantasy football season that I've ever participated in. So hopefully we can help you with our booms and busts for this week. Tony, Kyle, how are you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing good in 5 leagues. I lost in one because of DeVonta Adams.
You finally came alive. How about
But-
you, Tony? How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Excited for this week. I have 6 leagues. I made playoffs in 4. In the 4 leagues where I qualified, I was first or second. So I had a first round bye. So I was able to, it was nice because it was, starting the playoffs and I was able just to enjoy the games without having to worry about any type of fantasy action. And so now I'm right back into the thick of things this week. So I'm excited.
I'm weird. A first round bye, as good as that is to kind of have, at the same time, part of what I love about fantasy football is the thrill week in and week out, right? I'm sad when the season ends because I don't have that thrill anymore. It's like a big gamble that lasts for 5 days from Thursday through Monday. It's fun. So I liked being able to kind of have that thrill all last week of that nail biter in all my fantasy leagues. Trying to make it past that first round. So, what an adrenaline junkie, right? All right, guys, let's get into it. The booms and busts for the semifinals week. Kyle, let's let you go first this week. What you got for me?
All right, so I think I'm going to hit you with Marvin Harrison first, which he's just been so inconsistent, right? Very, very inconsistent this year. For some reason, he just can't find that consistent rapport with Kyler Murray. I don't know what the problem is, but I think he's going to bust this week. Carolina is a decent matchup on paper, but between the inconsistency and the way they've been feeding James Conner, I think they're going to run the ball a lot in this game. And so I just don't believe Marvin Harrison's somebody you can trust in your lineups in this important of a week in the season.
You don't think this is going to be a week where kind of noticing they're having a hard time connecting, maybe they kind of try to force that knowing they're playing against Carolina?
I mean, maybe, but I doubt it.
Too big of a gamble for
they've had other chances to kind of do that throughout the season. I don't see it changing much this week.
Yeah. Marvin Harrison Jr. was kind of on that roller coaster of up and down, up and down, up and down, and then he stayed down this last week. So if you survived that in week 1 of the playoffs, I don't know that I'm risking it here in week 2 where you said they're playing against Carolina. High usage of James Conner. You've got a rushing quarterback who's probably going to have a pretty decent week as well. So I don't know that I'm loving Marvin Harrison Jr. here either. So, all right, Professor, heading over to you. Teach us. How about you get off mute, you dork?
Am I on mute?
No, you're good now.
I didn't even know I was on mute. You must have muted me.
I was wondering how you were so quiet. I'm not used to you being quiet like that.
I'm trying to glean some knowledge from Kyle here. Yeah, so my first boom of the week, and it feels kind of a little funny even having to put him on a boom list because the one thing I don't want to do for the playoffs is give you the obvious picks and say, you're going to play Lamar Jackson as your starting quarterback, or you're going to bench Kincaid this week, or something that might be a little bit more obvious. So, but Breece Hall for me is a guy who has not necessarily been in your starting lineups the past couple of weeks, but dealing with an injury. However, I love him now going into the fantasy playoffs. Today, he did come off of the injury report for the New York Jets. I'm expecting him to get a full workload going up against the Rams, playing at home. I think this team's got some pride and want to finish the season out strong. I know for sure that Breece Hall does. So if you own Breece Hall and you didn't start him last week, you're probably going to want to start him this week.
I agree. You got to ride your studs here, and coming off the injury report is big. here, I feel like. And you have Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis, who were both listed as limited. So, he's getting back. Breece Hall is getting back into that lead back role, and that makes me confident leaning on him. Like you should be able to lean on your studs in the fantasy playoffs. So ride him confidently there. Alrighty, who's your next player then?
So my next player is a guy that I've been seeing all over the internet as a waiver ad or a guy who's a must start this week, largely due to the injury that we've seen to Nick Chubb, who now is going to be kind of shut down now on the season, and that's Jerome Ford. I know they're playing Cincinnati, who's been somewhat middling against the running back position. I just don't know. This game is in Cincinnati, an away game. I can kind of picture this game maybe getting a little bit away from Cleveland. It's just the game script, not being able to get Ford heavily involved with the game plan. I just don't trust him in this spot to pull him out and put him in my starting rotation for the semifinal week of the fantasy playoffs.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, if this game gets away from Cleveland early, Jerome Ford hasn't been catching a bunch of passes, so it's not like he really thrives there either. So, yeah, I kind of agree with you here. I don't like that being in Cincinnati, and it just feels like it's too easy of a hype, right? Like, oh, he's going to step into this lead role. Well, we've seen him in a lead role before, and it was pretty mediocre. It seems he kind of thrives in that kind of backup relief type of role there, kind of like Tony Pollard did back when he was with the Cowboys. That's where he really thrived at. When he took over as the lead role, he didn't really thrive as much. I feel like Jerome Ford kind of is that same kind of role there in Cleveland. So not super excited about him being the lead back there. So, all right, Kyle, back over to you.
Well, since he went with Ford, I'm actually going to stick in that same game, and I'm going to hit you with my first boom of the week and Mr. Jerry Jeudy. I know we got Dorian Thompson-Robinson playing this week, but against Cincinnati's weak pass defense, I think that's fine. They're going to be behind. They're going to be throwing often, and I think Jerry Jeudy benefits from that, and he has been on fire since the bye week. I mean, he's killing. He's not just killing nothing defenses. He's played Pitt twice, Denver, and Kansas City, and he's crushing it. So for me, even with different QB, Jerry Jeudy, you can trust him in your lineups in semifinal week.
Who knew that all it would take was Cedric Tillman getting hurt for Jerry Jeudy to have his coming out party? Right. I mean, how odd is that, right? Tillman was pretty hot, and then he got hurt, and then Jeudy now is just the man there. I think Cincinnati, you could throw against them pretty easily. Their defense isn't defending much there. I agree. He just seems to be the go-to target, and he's been very reliable since that bye week. So I'm plugging him in multiple lineups this week, and I think others can also trust him there. So, all right, give us your next one, Kyle.
Yeah, so my other bust of the week, Terry McLaurin. Against Philly, they played him in week 11. 2 catches for a yard. Okay, I think he can do better than that because he's been getting more involved lately. But I don't know. He struggles against Philly. Their defense is playing really, really well right now. I just don't think that's somebody that I want to rely on in my semifinals in that kind of a matchup that's already proven to struggle against that team.
Yeah, that last time he played Philly was very painful. I think he does a little bit better this time, but
a little bit, but he's not going to get you what he's been getting you since he come back from injury.
No, that I can agree with, up in the 20-point range. Little bonus question here then, kind of tied to Terry McLaurin, and I'm sorry if I'm jumping ahead here, and you could tell me if I am, but Jayden Daniels in this matchup, if Terry McLaurin's going to struggle, is Jayden Daniels also going to struggle? Just a little bonus for our viewers here. What do you think, Kyle?
Yes, I think so. I mean, he only had like 15 points or something when they played last. He'll get some points for you on his feet. He's not going to not complete any passes, right? So he'll get you some points, but you shouldn't expect, the Jayden Daniels-esque type of score. You're looking for more Mahomes points this week, I think, out of Jayden Daniels. And we kind of talked about this on the weekly kickoff this week too. Like Daniels against Philly, Lamar against Pitt. Those are two guys that are going to struggle this week that you've been leaning on all year. So you have to kind of prepare the rest of your roster around that situation. Maybe throw a little bit higher risk guy in a wide receiver or running back spot for that higher ceiling.
Interesting. All right, Professor, I'm going to kick that over to you. I'm going to let you have final word on Jayden Daniels and then go into your next player.
I find it hard to bench Jayden Daniels. I mean, he's a top 5 quarterback on the season. He's got you here. For me, Washington playing for the playoff seeding. I don't know that I can bench him unless I have a much better option where I feel comfortable. If you drafted Jayden Daniels, it's likely you did not draft him as your QB1. You probably could have drafted him later, and you might have another option. But I'm going to ride Daniels. The one thing I like about Jayden Daniels is the rushing floor that he gives you. Even last week he had 11 carries for 66 yards, and so that's nice to have that floor. He doesn't need to do a whole lot to put up a quality fantasy game, and I think Washington's going to have to score in this game if they're going to want to keep pace with the Eagles. So I know it's a tougher matchup. I get what Kyle is saying about.
Just to be clear, I said,
Harry, but I do like.
I said he'll struggle. I didn't say benching.
I got you. No, I mean I get that. I like him in this spot though.
Cool. I could see both sides of that argument for sure.
Yeah.
So, good luck, viewers, making your decisions. But it's hard to have a better option than Jayden Daniels if that's who you've been riding this season. So it's going to have to be a really good backup option for you to bench Jayden Daniels here. I agree with that. All right, Professor, who's your next player?
Well, I'm just going to stay in that same game and stick at the running back position. I really like Brian Robinson in this game for some of the reasons that Kyle doesn't like McLaurin. I think that we could see another heavy dose of Brian Robinson. Of course, since Eckler's gone out, he gets really 100% of the workload. This last week, 21 carries, only put up 65 yards, so the efficiency really wasn't there. But the workload is there. He is the every down back. He is the goal line back. And he also gives you those receptions out of the backfield, 3 catches for 22 yards. So he's a guy for me that, I'm having a hard time convincing myself to bench him unless I have a much kind of better option at the running back position. But I do trust him largely due to that workload that he's getting. And he looks, other than the little bit of a down efficiency this week, he's looked pretty good all season.
Yeah, he's in that spot of what we rarely have these days in fantasy football, and that's a workhorse running back. Mm-hmm. He's in a rare position to be that workhorse running back. So even in a tough matchup, he's getting volume and opportunities. And that offense is good enough to be in scoring opportunities frequently, right? Even against the Philly defense, I think they're going to be in scoring opportunities. So, it makes him a very reliable option, a very high floor type of player. And going to the playoffs, you kind of want those safe players in there that probably aren't going to tank for you that week. So that's my kind of player right there too. I like a safe option. So, all right, Professor, give us your last player of the week.
Yeah, so my last player of the week is a guy that I've got on my bust list, guy that I was a little bit high on a couple of weeks ago when both CMC and Jordan Mason went down, and that's Isaac Guerendo. He had a decent game. Just watching this offense, it looks like they're a lock not to make the playoffs. Really struggling. On the offensive side of the ball, they're playing at Miami. And again, this is another game script game where I can see this getting away a little bit from the 49ers and not having to rely as heavily on Guerendo. So for me, I'm just in this particular spot here, just not sure that I trust him enough to put him in my starting lineup for week 16 of the playoffs.
Yeah, that offense as a whole has been kind of a mess. That team as a whole, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know that there's maybe a bigger disappointment on the season. I think them and Cincinnati are probably dueling it out for the biggest disappointments on the season. Maybe throw the Jets in there too. So really high hopes. Granted, they've had some injuries and been dealing with that all year, but they're so deep, it seems, at all positions that it usually doesn't mess with them so much. So I don't know. I don't trust any of their running backs to even stay healthy for an entire game at this point. It doesn't seem. So I don't trust them there. And for all the other reasons that you mentioned, I don't really have anything to add on top of that. I think you pretty much covered why you probably don't want to trust him in your semifinal matchup this week. So good call on that one. All righty, Kyle, back over to you. Finish it up on a high note, man.
Yeah, I give you my other boom player. I almost said boost player. Boom player.
Well, hopefully it gives you a team a boost.
And going with DeVonta Smith. And he's a guy that started out hot. Then he had some trouble with injuries and inconsistency. But since he come back from this last injury, he's been playing really, really well. And with the criticism of the passing game all over social media before last week, they're throwing the ball a whole lot more now. And Washington's pretty susceptible to the pass. So DeVonta Smith, he's been a little unreliable at times this year, but I trust him this week.
When you started off talking about DeVonta Smith, it made me think of she falls in a well, eyes go cross, get kicked in the head by a mule, eyes go back straight, right? Like gets hurt the first time, gets hurt the second time, comes back from the second one, right? It's what it made me think about. Yeah, it's interesting with DeVonta Smith how he kind of just fell off the radar, was pretty disappointing there for a little bit. And it was like, can I even start this guy? Even in some of my leagues right now, people still have him on their bench. They're still not trusting him right now. You know, he was on a lot of benches this last week when he got 28 points or whatever, because you just didn't know if he was going to perform. I think I'm trusting him, especially against Washington. So, you know, you drafted this guy high, you play him again. When you get to the playoffs here, it's a lot of trust your studs, right? DeVonta Smith is a stud on a high powered offense. And he's proven that he's back, you know, on Hurts's radar. And so I think you got to take advantage of that and play him while you can.
Yeah, on a team that's purposely trying to throw the ball more to keep the receivers happy. Like,
yep,
give me that.
And keep Saquon healthy for their real playoffs, you know. So with his injury history. All righty, guys, that's going to do it for this week's Boom Bust Fantasy Football, brought to you by the Fantasy Football Advice Network. Professor Kyle, thank you as always. And to the viewers, good luck this week, and we hope you're watching next week for your finals matchup.
Good luck.
Thanks, guys.
We are here. FantasySportsAdvice.com, offering the best fantasy sports social media platform. Why join endless Discord communities or the trolls of Reddit? Fantasy Sports Advice is a community designed to help you win with 24/7 support. Go to FantasySportsAdvice.com and become a pro member for unlimited access. Again, go to FantasySportsAdvice.com today.